You went into a fountain, or did you miss that joke?
I
Welcome
don't.
to the December movie club in the holiday spirit. We picked a all-time favorite kids classic, Cats Don't Dance, that I hadn't heard about until now. But Brent,
You're
tell us
welcome.
about why you picked this one.
I picked this because this is a childhood favorite of mine since I was a kid. But literally, I think a lot of like what I like older movies and jazz music, can be probably traced back to this from when I first watched it on VHS so many times back in the day. And it's really a shame that no one has really heard of this movie. At least it's like gone on as like a forgotten classic because it really never got promoted when it did come out. Like Warner Brothers and Time Warner, when the movie came out, did not promote this movie at all, and it got sent out to die on Easter weekend. Like it got good reviews, but nobody watched it, which is
I
a
looked at
shame.
the box office results. It made 10% of its budget. So, hey, way to burn money. Stephen
Well, that's
Lally
not a
did
way. That should be a like seen as like a sign of its quality because I think it is a quality movie.
just the marketing maybe at the end of the 90s. Steve, you've watched this before, right?
Oh, several times, yes. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that.
I don't know.
Lali,
It
that's
is
your
really
first
good.
time?
Yeah, this is my first time watching that one too.
Okay, my first time as well. James?
No, I think I was younger. I think it was on Cartoon Network, maybe.
Oh, several times, yes, during their theater sort of thing.
And then Josh, you mentioned you watched it in the past once, but you had different memories of it compared to now.
No. I remember watching it at my friend's house. I remember more about sitting on that couch than I did the movie.
Must be a good fan.
Clearly, I'm going to have to get going up the bat to hit some home runs for this one because I feel like I'm uphill already.
I just want to know how old you and Steven were, so when I start to rip into this movie, I can picture the children I am making cry.
So
You ain't making me cry. I forget I'm talking to somebody in their 30s who also should love this movie, but apparently doesn't.
So I'm closer to 40 than I am 30, and I was 11 when this released in theaters, and I think I was 12 by the time it released on VHS and DVD, but it was in one of those horrible snap DVD cases where you had to snap open the black.
The clamshell ones.
Yeah.
I would have been 14, so I'm not surprised I didn't realize when it came out. Plus, I guess the lack of marketing. Again, I had never heard of this movie, and when I started watching it, sometimes it's like when we discuss movies, there was just a different translation in German that I know the movie, but I haven't heard of the English original title. But in this case, yeah, I was complete blank. Had no idea. But it is the late 90s, 1997. I'm wearing my 1997 polo shirt from back in the day. And you can also tell the movie is aged by, what's his name, Danny, the cat, taking the bus instead of flying. I don't think any movie would start with a cross-country bus trip anymore.
Well, this also took place in the 1930s. So
yes.
Oh, yeah, no, true. It's dated back to 1939 or something.
Now we'll get into feelings, but Josh, would you rather watch this or the other animated film that Turner put together, which was Pagemaster, which I only saw.
I like Pagemaster a lot better than this movie.
Which I only saw to see the Power Rangers, the movie trailer back in the 90s. But
Pagemaster, 1,000 even before you finished that statement.
Yeah, I would too.
Also, here's the thing: this movie also got sent up against Turbo, the Power Rangers movie. I would rather watch Cats Don't Dance than Turbo, the Power Rangers movie.
Here's the other thing: this movie was supposed to star Michael Jackson, and when that flopped, when that didn't go through, that's how we got Space Jam. I'd rather watch Space Jam than this.
I feel like we're also comparing two different genres of movies and two completely different things in this, because Space Jam's not a musical by any stretch of the imagination. This one is definitely a musical, and it all kind of depends on how you feel about musicals. If you
It's
don't care
very
about musicals, I can see
And
why you
this
wouldn't like it.
and this not
But
only has the wonderful contributions of Randy Newman host the first Toy Story, but it's the final work of Gene Kelly that was fully released before his
who
death.
also worked as a consultant for choreography in the movie too.
Okay, so before we start, what genre are we going with? Are we going with musical?
It's
I
an
mean, it is a
animated
jazz musical, so yeah.
Animated kids movie with musical
I don't
elements.
know.
For a musical, I'm with you there a little bit, and it's debatable. I mean, it's listed as
It
a
has
musical,
more music in it than some Don Bluth animated musicals. So
but not more. There's more
those
dialogue than
can't count
music.
it.
There's I think six songs.
Because I was
So it's
because look,
That's
this was the same
fairly
year.
musical.
This was the same year that Hercules came out by Disney.
Yeah,
And-
and it has more songs in it than Hercules does.
Yes, but Hercules has good songs. This has more,
This
but none of them were
this
good.
also has good songs. Tell
No,
Me
no, no.
Lies. Nothing's gonna stop us now. Big and Loud. That's 3 already.
You're naming songs, not good songs.
Yeah, I am naming songs. Oh, look, we can just do this all day where I'm just naming different opinions and you're not going to agree to anything I say.
You're not agreeing to anything I say. Truthfully, you're attacking me.
Well, you also said earlier in the chat that like 10
Man.
seconds of the movie was a clip show.
Brand don't
So
like people with no hair.
So somewhere it said this is the only feature-length movie by Turner Feature Animation. I think Pagemaster was distributed 20th Century Fox, Turner Pictures, whatever the difference, two different Turners, before I think Time Warner took
Because I
over.
think this is the same studio that did like Pebble the Penguin, A Troll in Central Park.
no, that was different studio. Because that was under Don Bluth's studio. That was not this studio. This was Warner Family Entertainment. And this one was reason why it didn't get marketed so well is because this also took place during the time when Time Warner and Turner were doing like a big merger and they just didn't promote it. They wanted to promote Quest for Camelot, which came up a year afterwards.
Oh, that was a fun
This
movie.
Eh,
And this
Okay.
was director Mark Dindal's feature film debut. So his first movie.
and he went on to do Emperor's New Groove for Disney.
I like that movie too.
Let me guess. Oh, that was a movie's a lot better than this one. Yeah,
Everyone did
okay.
good, yeah.
that's the thing. I'm not going to do this whole thing where we're trying to compare like 20 different movies to this movie we're currently talking about.
And we're not quite there yet in the discussion anyway. We have to delve into what the movie's actually about a little bit.
Let's dive in there because I'm trying to find different angles into this. I'm still undecided. I think, Brand, you made a comment on Discord. There was to the likes of this movie, so Cats Don't Dance walked, so other movies could run. I think that one for me hit it the closest because there are a lot of interesting ideas I see. Having the knowledge now of how and where animated movies went. With the likes of Sing, and seeing elements already like what would that have been 20 years. I think Sing came out in 2016. almost 20 years prior, where you can see resemblance and like can see very strong plot lines going along the same alleys. That it laid a lot of groundwork. Also being based off other movies like Singing in the Rain, I believe, but taking it one step further without, in my opinion, perfectioning it. But that's where then the next generation of animated movies came. So it's like this, I guess, milestone, if you want to call it, in my opinion, that had to be there for movies to go a certain direction and others to take ideas from it, yet relatively unknown still. And I guess only to the producers or directors that came after it, that copied from it or took inspiration from it.
And here's why I say Cats Don't Dance walks, so that way Sing can later run, because Sing got a sequel and is getting another sequel in development right now along with it. This movie is a complete movie that doesn't really need a sequel. It doesn't really need, like, it's its own complete story right here. And as someone put it better than I could, it's a jazz musical fable that tells a complete story. You don't need a sequel to have.
Sing didn't need a sequel either. They got one because it was successful. And I think Sing 2 wasn't as good as Sing.
I never seen it.
But again, that's a different movie. And I know that's a whole different discussion because some of us liked it and some of us didn't like Sing. But before we get into that, let's actually talk about Cats Don't Dance. With regards to the plot, the story, we have the princess and the peasant. Danny the cat learns the hard way that it's not about him, and animals fight for their own spot in the spotlight. Just without giving a 20-minute synopsis, anyone that hasn't watched the movie can read that, or in a bit over an hour watch the movie. But that's what it breaks down to. I think there are lots of different points of interpretation in there. I've read online somewhere people compared it to, like, it's an analogy to black actors in Hollywood. And the likes of those. So there's different things that we can base a discussion on, or angles to look at. I don't know where you guys want to start.
I mean, I definitely think that allegory definitely has merit, because while this is a love letter to the golden age of Hollywood and musicals at that time, it definitely does kind of shine a light a bit on that aspect of Hollywood that doesn't get a whole talked about, is that people in minorities back then weren't given a whole lot of, like, substantial parts to play. It was mostly just supporting roles, if that. So it took decades for that to turn around to where minorities could get roles like the animals in this movie wanted, where it wasn't just bit parts and they wanted leading roles instead.
And parts that weren't stereotypical for
exactly that too.
Period.
And the allegory for me was kind of clear too, with how, like, stuff like, well, doesn't everybody come to Hollywood because they want talented people? And it's like, they want talented people, not animals. And the bus driver exchange with Danny later, when Danny's about to leave Hollywood, it's a bit farther in the movie.
Yeah, so first timers, comment on what you believe this movie's about, what you enjoyed, or why you detested it.
First time with Lali.
I knew that was coming. No, I thought it was a good animated, musical. I can kind of see the comparison with Sing, I guess. Except I feel like this one wasn't as, like, funny. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the funny bits comes towards the end when, like, that whole scene where they, like, finally got what they wanted, where the animals, like, won, essentially. Like, most of that scene was funny. But the rest of the movie, I think, did kind of focus more on the plot. It's a very easy to follow plot, I feel. Like, it's almost kind of like a scripted plot of what, like, outside of the allegory of what, like, a cartoon animated movie usually has, right? There's, like, an issue, and then they, like, work together to, like, fix that issue. So I don't know. I feel like, I guess maybe because it's so simplistic and it's, like, from way back in the day, like, it does feel kind of like it's a little bit scripted almost, to me at least, watching it for the first time.
I felt some of the plot was maybe a little bit too easy, like the way for Danny into the scene, like, it really didn't call for any animal to have a standout solo in a Noah's Ark resemblance scene. It wasn't about that. It's about, like, in the story, well, in this one, I forgot the name of that movie, but like, Noah's Ark is about Noah building the ark and selecting the animals 2 by 2 and all of that. It's like, yeah, why would the cat roll? Like, even if the cat was talented, why would he get a solo role in that scene? It was a super inappropriate moment, regardless of whether there's a villain character and then Danny as the portrayed hero stepping in and taking his opportunity, being shut down. And it's like, even if that wasn't a villain hero scenario, like that was the complete in the most inappropriate moment to do that. Me watching it's like, like it's your first role in Hollywood ever, and you're kind of like trying to make this about you. I get what they want to portray, but maybe smarter writing would have worked there.
If I may, I think the point of that scene, especially when Max came in, by the way, great henchman Max is, because how he leads and it outros is very intimidating. And I always loved how they made him feel like such a presence, even though he's not on screen for that long when you actually break it down. But I think that point of that scene was basically to show Darla Dimple, who is the child star of this movie, which is a very, I like how that's kind of a funny parody off the Shirley Temple rumor from back in the day. Like the urban legend, she actually was like someone who didn't actually love animals and was just very belligerent all the time. But the whole point of it was like to show like that Darla Dimple's a prima donna who will escalate things and make it more about herself, because like, yeah, it's a Noah's Ark thing, but she's making about like where she's the one who is like the one who actually saves the day, and has like the animals and all that kind of stuff not even part of like the picture. And also has Max essentially give like the whole thing of like, no, you're going to basically say your line and you're not going to do anything more than that. Like you're going to stay in your lane and do what you're told.
Which is fair. Like that's a movie role. That's why movies have a script and a play.
Well, it's like, it wasn't like how he said it really. It was more that he tried upstaging like Darla, and Darla immediately is trying to shut that down.
Yeah, I've heard an interview with, I believe it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he tried to force his way into a scene. They were sitting at a table and it was a scene, and trying to get access into a scene. And as an unknown actor, kind of wanting to speak up and say something. So it was in the scene. There was no speech meant for that character, and they just put something in, like someone asked them something over the shoulder, and instead of just being quiet, they responded, and the director said like, no, cut this out or you're out of here. And then that actor became a really famous, I don't think it was Schwarzenegger actually, I think like either, I don't know, Brad Pitt, or I'll look it up, but someone who became famous after explaining why it's so difficult to get roles where they can shine, not only to shine, but I guess to become part of the union. So you have to have a line in a movie, actually speaking role, to become part of the union. Only once you're part of the union, you get cast. You can get cast for main roles, for lead roles. So it's this double-edged, or like this vicious cycle of like, you won't get cast unless you're part of the union, but you won't be part of the union unless you have at least a sentence in a movie, and actors trying to get in a sentence and being constantly shut down by the director.
Well, I will say, because I've done some extra work way back in the day, done some PA work way back in the day.
Well, what type of movies?
A lot of Home Depot for Chili's corporate video. I can't remember the name of it. I did some PA work on a horror film that was about a guy who kills a cop, pretends to be a cop, and goes on a rampage. It starred the dude who played Frankenstein from Van Helsing. So that should help you, James. Worked on a pilot with Minnie Driver. But anyway, couple things. One, the scene with Max entering, that was like his best scene. I do feel like he got overplayed a bit, but that first time you saw him, that was a lot of fun and a great moment. I have to agree with Torsten here. Like, I know Danny's supposed to be the hero, but man, I'm like, this dude is a jerk. He's like, here's the thing. If he wasn't the main star, he would be the villain in any other movie.
I don't see that because you already have Darla Dimple, who's literally trying to like flood the stage and also like potentially kill a bunch of people. Which, by the way, in the 1920s filmation of Noah's Ark, that actually was an incident that happens where like they flood the stage for a Noah's Ark film adaptation, and it actually.
See, and I get what you're saying. Okay, I will say this too, though. I found her very overplayed very quickly. Like I got to the point where I'm like anytime she was on screen, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
For me, it was this funny thing where like her design reminds me of Baby Doll from the Batman animated series. I actually had it in my head where like I watched this again. Like, they say like probably child star, but I could probably see her being older than they look. Where she's like has this kind of like that Shirley Temple rumor where she's like older, very belligerent, but holds on to fame for so long that people just treat her like she's still a kid.
See, I'm not going to say he's a villain, Brand, but Danny starts out as a total dick, unfortunately.
I wouldn't call him a dick. I would call him naive at best because he's very much thinking like, well, this works in like the smaller shows I would do at like on Kokomo where like I try and like maximize my minutes essentially.
So,
well,
if
you try to make the most out of
wait
like
a minute, Brand. Sawyer deserved everything she got?
No. I'm not saying she deserved the guy because
I'm just saying
what she got was she treated terribly by Hollywood because of racism. Because she wasn't a human, so she wasn't going to get
racism didn't dunk her into a fountain, brush a door on her, light her hat on fire.
Again, that's also Danny being clumsy and naive. That's a character.
He's naive up until
that's not like the character being a dick.
He's naive because he has his goals and his dreams and his list, and that's understandable. But even though he has this dream, Torsen and Josh are right. He has a job to do. He steps out of line. He's chastised, probably a little harshly, but it's a cartoon and it's not like he actually got hurt for it. But then he sees, and again, it's a little bit naivete. It's a little bit just not wanting to face reality. He goes to someone who's already shown herself to be a pretty terrible person. But again, that's not her public persona, and winds up getting the racism amplified and all of the minorities kicked out of the studio. And instead of trying to make it up to them, he decides to run away from his problems until the bus driver really drives home that he's doing the right thing by giving in to the abuse and toxicity of that environment. This is a perfect movie to focus on a millennial or a Gen Zer because the stereotype of those generations is that people can come into an environment and just ratchet themselves up to the top. Danny is.
I don't agree with a lot of that actually, because here's the thing. That's all off the pack there. Where do I start?
Away. One of us had to play devil's advocate.
We have 4 people playing devil's advocate, and I apparently have to be the
I'm
odd
not
man
playing
out
devil's advocate. I'd say it's a waste of time, budget, and money. It was poorly animated, and good God, I regret spending that hour.
The animation was good.
Poorly animated. What movie did you watch?
The one that was
because did you watch the one we watched 2 weeks ago?
The one that was constantly off model.
I will say I did.
So the one 2 weeks ago that you thought was a better movie.
I did have to ask Steve a few times. I was like, "What animal is that? Is that a cat? Why is the cat like looks like a fox and have like red fur?" I don't know. There was a few animals where I was just like,
tabby cat.
He's a tabby. And for the record, Brand, I'm not being harsh on this movie. I'm being harsh on the character. I'm saying I understand him, but the way his actions affected other characters have to be taken into account. Again, I'm digging deeply because this is a kid's movie, and at the end of the day, you set up the hero, you invite some conflict, you resolve the conflict, and the hero wins. You do see growth. Unfortunately, the growth doesn't come until like the last 5 to 10 minutes because this movie is less than an hour and 20 minutes. I love this movie. I think the musical numbers are enchanting still to this day. I think the secondary characters have their own personality. Even though I like Danny to a certain extent, watching it from an adult perspective and being a millennial myself and seeing the way things have worked, I like his actions and the way he goes about things less than I did years ago when I first saw the movie.
Also,
Well, here's my thing about it is, and it's a line that will probably get glossed over, is when he kind of reveals the fact that like he went to Darla Dimple and she offered to help them with the production. And I think it's like Tilly says, and you believed her? That basically implies that she screwed over a lot of them, if not all of them, before Danny even showed up. So they all know how horrible he is. This is the higher ups keep coddling her and like giving her special treatment over animals who are obviously a bit more talented than her.
I want to make this connection though. So I feel like this whole discussion might boil down to us being like, hey, I didn't like this. Bran being like, why didn't you like, you should have liked this. Pause. Let me cook. When we watched the last movie I wasn't sitting here like, I defended Gus and Francis a little bit, but at the same time, yeah, Francis was pretty mean to Gus. Like, I'm not going to lie and be like, he was, and it's like Danny was a jerk. Danny is not a great character.
Did you miss the part where I said he has character flaws, but he also has good natured moments where he's optimistic, he's energetic, he loves to have fun, and he also is going to be the one who's like tries to bring them out of their spirits? Because look at the Animal Jam scene. Like that is a great interpretation of like, let me finish, let me cook, because that is a great interpretation of how depression is. Because all these people, when he's trying to get them like to be roused up and like actually like be involved, like they're all like muted out and grayed until they start actually getting involved and participating. Then all of a sudden it's like they physically brighten up, and you can see like they're like having a little bit more fun and being more lighthearted and not being so down and cynical all the time about what environment they're in. They're actually starting to enjoy themselves, and Danny being around helps bring them out of their shells essentially and makes them actually be able to follow their dreams. And what they've been there all along to do is be a part of Hollywood, be part of the film process, and be like have the spotlight finally shown on them and not people like Darla Dimple who want only the spotlight on themselves.
This movie sounds very much like Wicked.
Yeah, I thought about that too, James. I had a thought on that too.
But on the other side, you can play devil's advocate in the other way too. Maybe it requires a character like Danny that is naive, that requires someone to go head first through the wall, to tear down those established structures, because we see so many other animals in that place that have failed, that are just complacent or content with where they are in their role, that have failed dreams and just continue on with being okay with having failed dreams, not trying to change it. So it requires a character like Danny, who might come off as irrational and being a dick, being a douchebag, but sometimes you need that to tear down those structures.
Okay. You do. It doesn't change the fact that he is a bit of a dick and doesn't consider consequences. But again, that's why you have character growth.
I think we're also focusing more negatively on the protagonist of this movie than the villain of this movie. And that's where I'm like, okay, do we like the villain of the movie more than the hero sometimes? Because I feel like we talk more about the flaws of the hero more than we do about like the negatives of the villain. Because sometimes I don't know, like, I feel like we tend to take like the villain says at face value more than we do the hero. I don't get it.
More of a backstory, though, I feel. Because I feel like when we started with Danny, like literally he hopped on a bus and showed up in the city. I feel like they talked more about the background of the villain. And I thought she was hilarious. Honestly, I don't know.
I mean,
she's just one of my favorites.
She's still terrible, Brand. I like her less than I like Danny because she's grown to be entitled. She knows she's powerful. She knows up until the point where something new comes along that could potentially threaten her standing, she's what's holding that studio up. That's why even the head of that studio, who probably knows about her antics and probably in the background, if this were an adult animated film, there's murders and corpses all over the river in Hollywood. He probably knew about that shiitake, but she's bringing in money. She's holding the studio up, so she gets to do whatever the flim flam she wants. But just because she's able to do that, it doesn't mean that she can't eventually be held accountable, just like Danny's eventually held accountable for his actions. It just comes at the unfortunate cost of all of the other animals being punished as well.
And I like how Darla's own downfall is her trying to intervene and overstep, especially at the end performance of Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, where Danny basically tricks her into doing more work for them and basically making their performance look even better than it was going to look, because she was trying to just sabotage it and ended up making the show even better, because he basically told the other people in the crew just roll with anything that she does and just do as you do, and then made the performance even better.
Yeah, exactly. He used her ego against her. He took what she believed was her greatest strength because she'd worked so hard, or maybe she didn't work hard at all to establish it, and it was her greatest weakness.
And that, as a point for the protagonist of the movie, is something that shows the character growth, because it shows that, like, yeah, he might be naive, a little bit clumsy, and a little bit of like egocentric, but he also uses like those traits for good and not just what Darla does and just uses it for her own self.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'm on your side, Brand, because I saw him as like this country bumpkin, right? That came in from like a small town, knew nothing about like Hollywood, just like had hopes and dreams. And by the end of it, he learned the system. You know, he learned how to use it to get what he wanted to help his friends at the end of the day. So I like the kind of karma at the end there, for sure.
And I just remind myself about the bus driver scene, because I think what made him realize that, like, hey, why am I on the bus for? We only just got started, kind of thing, was because he did see like the representations of like looking outside and the bus driver scene, like, look at those people out there. They ain't got no future, just like you. You're about to leave right now. And he's seen like, no, if I leave, this is a mistake, because I'm just feeding into the system that chews people up and spits them out. And I need to like think bigger than myself and represent more than just myself and bring in like my friends and all this stuff to like have a bigger part. It's not just about me. It's about like the people I care about, which is why he gets off the bus and goes back to them and gives them invitations and brings them onto the stage.
At the end of the day, I can't hate him anyway, because how can you hate Scott Bakula? When you really think about it, this could just be a theatrical version of an extended Quantum Leap episode where he's just inhabiting this body and waiting for Al to move him on to the next stage.
Which somehow would be the weirdest Quantum Leap episode ever, but I know we're saying all this and Josh and James are just rolling their eyes and go like, what movie did you guys watch? But it's like, I didn't pull this out of thin air. I literally watched it today even. I was like, man, this movie is very clever and funny for the time it came out in, and for like the no love it got for marketing. It's like it got sent out to die for no reason.
It did need to be longer.
Depth, yeah.
It did need to be longer, but it had a shoestring budget because this Turner film group was going under anyway. Pagemaster unfortunately didn't make the money it really needed to make to capitalize on its budget. Honestly, in theaters and on home media, Pagemaster made the money it did because, one, it had Macaulay Culkin in it, and two, whether you were watching the theatrical release, you got a behind the scenes look at the production of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. If you got the home media release a year later, you got the full on extended trailer for that. So those both played a role. This didn't have that. It didn't have any sort of chip product promotion. It didn't have any sort of soda. It had to live and die on its own 2 feet. It had no love from the marketing department, and that's what unfortunately caused its failure.
Pagemaster made way more money though. So both around the same budget. So I know you said shoestring budget, but it was still a $32 million budget. Which I feel is a lot compared to other movies we discussed in the past, especially animated ones.
Well,
Pagemaster had
Quest for Camelot. The movie that came out after this, Quest for Camelot, has significantly more budget to it and was seen as the more important movie by Warner Brothers than Cats Don't Dance. So that's why they got more of a budget for it. Even though that's not as good a movie as this, but that's not a whole thing out there.
Was the budget for that movie put into the production, or was it mostly on marketing? That's the question, right? Like how much money was used for what?
That movie was marketed so much better than Castle Dance.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, wait a minute.
And watching commercials for Quest for Camelot, and I only
trailer was on the back of every Warner Brothers movie back in the day.
They had Boking toys too.
What was the budget for Cats Don't Dance?
32
like $3.6 million.
Okay. No, that was 3.5 million was the box office. $32 million.
Quest for Camelot was 40 million. Like you're making it sound like
yeah.
I'm making it sound like the movie's underrated when it actually is.
Quest for Camelot did have good marketing, and it wasn't just like commercial marketing. I believe there were tie-in products for that one as well. Because I remember toys for that. I don't know that they made toys for Cats Don't Dance.
They made a Subway tie-in. So one thing.
But even Pagemaster made 13.7 million. And again, Cats Don't Dance 3.5 million is like one of the biggest failures, like monetary wise, that we've discussed so far. So I think this is the biggest box office bust with regards to that category that we've discussed.
Yeah, and it was the biggest bust for the Turner Feature Animation Studio as well, unfortunately.
Which is a shame because the movie has a lot of heart and charm to it, and I personally think it's really funny. I love the dialogue exchange in this because I was actually laughing at myself for like how many different like exchanges and quips there was doing this. It's like watching a cartoon version of His Girl Friday.
A lot of what brought this down was the fact that this went into early production long before it was actually released, because this was released in 97. Production on this started 5 years prior when Michael Jackson expressed interest and he was going to produce. So half this film's budget would have been covered by Michael Jackson. Warner had to kind of take a different direction, and that includes using Randy Newman as the third person selected to compose music for this. This kind of went through an animated production hell before it actually finally got released in 1997.
Well, okay,
most
animated movies do.
Voice for
like
the voice for Sawyer actually got replaced 90% of the way through the movie too. Sorry, Josh.
Most animated movies go through hell. Like I feel like we're changing the narrative, not because of fact, but because like, oh man, I love this movie. Like, yeah, a lot of great movies don't have the budget. Treasure Planet, Atlantis, like this happens quite a bit, and I get it, it sucks. But it's not like this is like the one film that's been beat up and had no chance. Truthfully.
Oh no, there's Iron Giant as well, also by Warner Brothers, who also got sent out to die and also found cult status on video and Cartoon Network's theater like programming block. Like a lot of this is just due to like bad promotion and just lack of marketing for really good movies.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched it, I can completely understand. I think they made the right business choice.
I don't, and that's where we have to disagree on this. because
everyone's been praising the animation, or like lots of, not everyone here clearly, but to me, I didn't hate the animation, but it didn't stand out as something phenomenal either. What stood out to me is how they play with colors and saturation changes, though. Like whenever the mood changes, you can see saturation going down, up in the right moments, and in a very, very unique and creative way that I hadn't seen before in that matter. Maybe it stands out so much because they put a very unique focus on saturation and changes and color schemes. But I think that in that way, this movie is very unique with regards to that part of the animation. With regards to just character design and the rest of it, it didn't really stand out to me.
But
I would love to see this movie on Blu-ray, which I know it has.
Despite the detractors, it did win Saturn Awards and Select Annie Awards, so that says something. And yes, it was released on Blu-ray, but only a short time ago through the Warner Archive, and it's such a shame because there's a lot of production material from rewrites, there's outtakes from putting this film together. None of that is included on the Blu-ray for this. None of it was included on the DVD. That was pretty bare bones as well.
And this came out last year, so it's almost like 25 years after the movie came out. So like even afterwards, this movie has to fight uphill to get any kind of like loyalty or following for it. So like I'm not changing the narrative. The narrative is this movie needs more love.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all I'm saying.
It does. It's a lot of fun, despite my newly adult perspective on early act Danny.
And here's my thing.
I thoroughly enjoyed
when I was a kid, I didn't really care much about like how he acted toward like the animals. But as an adult, I was like, okay, fine. He has character flaws. Most characters should have
character. I didn't care as much either. And I'm only showcasing this stance because Josh is like, I hate it. Like I hate small soldiers. And there needs to be some sort of in-depth reasoning behind it. And I'm showcasing that I don't like how his actions have a negative effect on others. But again, there's character growth toward the end of the movie. It's very quick character growth. It's basically montage character growth, but it is there.
Okay.
Yes, Thorsten, I get it.
No, first of all, I don't hate this movie. I don't think this movie results in that much of a reaction. I think it's okay. Here's the thing. Y'all are like, my God, the animation. We have not seen such breathtaking animation. Y'all need to go watch Sleeping Beauty. I am so upset. Like, yeah,
Josh,
wow, they're playing with saturation.
Here's the thing. I can also lift up a bunch of movies from like 2 weeks ago about bear detective movies, but you didn't see me do that now, did I? Also,
maybe you should have.
Conversation.
Maybe you should have. No one stopped you.
Also, here's the thing. Yes, let's put down this movie that got no promoting and no marketing to build up Disney.
They need
Anytime time you'd be like, boo, Disney.
I'm sorry. You're right. I had so many Disney films.
Also, Cowboy Bebop. What does that have to do with this conversation?
That came out beforehand. That's animation.
I'm not saying this movie is like God tier animation. I'm just saying it's not poorly animated. Like you suggested.
I'm saying it's direct to DVD. I'm saying this is direct. I'm saying Little Mermaid 2 had a better.
Oh my goodness! So
I never even watched Little Mermaid 2. Don't even say that.
Those movies when I mentioned the saturation and color changes. So if you wanted to use those examples, yeah, the animation of those are better, but even Cowboy Bebop doesn't have crazy saturation changes and in the right moment. So it's kind of set in the same tone. So the point you're making is
also this movie had more to say.
Better in those, but
Castle Dance had more to say. It was a complete story than Little Mermaid 2. So don't give me that. Don't that.
Who wants to watch that for movie club?
This is gonna be those looking back. I feel like this is gonna be the most salty I've been this entire movie club I've been.
I feel the YouTube algorithm based on the hate for Disney and Little Mermaid puts us in the wrong category.
Well, okay, here's the other thing. The reason why we're all dunking on Danny or whatever his name is, it's because without the villains, no one would remember this movie. And I say I will die on that hill.
I remember it for Sawyer and for the other secondary
This
characters.
would have
I
gone
think
without
Woolley
the
is
villains.
hilarious. And
Without
I was a bit of a chunkers around the age of 10 or 11, so Pudge is basically me in this movie, because I'm definitely not
Also,
dating. I wasn't outspoken.
I can't help but think that Cranston the Goat looks like Josh. So
I was like kind of thinking that watching this movie, I was like, everyone should like have to pick an animal.
I say Cranston the Goat just looks like
like
Josh in human form.
I love how you guys are like, Pudge is such a unique character. It's like he looks like the stupid penguin from Looney Tunes.
He actually reminded me of a younger version of that penguin from the Pebble and the Penguin movie, which is
Although I will say a lot better done here than in Pebble the Penguin.
yeah,
Upon
that
rewatching
is
that
not
one
a great movie. If you want to talk dick protagonist, that has a dick protagonist.
If you want to talk about character design that makes me like wince a bit, it's Pebble the Penguin. Like Tim Curry just plays a buff penguin. So weird.
This movie has, despite it still to this day being very underrated, you can see the influences it had on other films. I know Sing is not a unique concept, but you can point to similarities between that and this film. You can relate to this movie as being someone's final chance to really shine in animation as the singing voice for Sawyer. This was her one major animated singing role, and she unfortunately passed away due to complications that developed from drug use back in 2017. So
Natalie Cole.
that's a shame. Yeah.
2017. So no, I'm sorry. You set that up as if she died like right afterwards. That
No,
was
she didn't die right after, but the experience with this film, the failure, it was her decision not to continue forward with animation, apparently.
I don't know. After the Ducky story,
but we should have watched this one before the last one. Maybe too.
Oh, I'm sorry. We should have watched the bad one before the good one.
No, we already did that. We already did that
it.
last time. We watched Philadelphia first, then we watched the more lighthearted, better movie this time.
Well,
There it is.
There it
I
is.
just was not expecting it to be like, I don't
No.
know. This animation is very like humanistic, right? You're just replacing like a human plot with animals. So like I wasn't expecting it to just be like
So,
cartoony.
like a fable.
So I'm going to state this 100%. Bran hated the last movie, period, which is fine. I'm actually glad you hated it. We now have a base.
I see now that Josh should listen to anything I said in the 2.5 hours we talked about in Philadelphia last week.
Are you going to rewatch it?
I mean, not right now. Why would I? But if you would stop interrupting me, I would say that Castle Dance is a great palate cleanser for Philadelphia.
That's not the question. No. The question is, how do you feel about Philadelphia?
I thought it was okay.
So by okay equals terrible. Like,
no. See, here's the thing: is apparently I get told a lot that Brandon likes too much stuff. He doesn't say enough criticisms, or is it negative? So heaven would help me if I say something negative about a movie, because then I suddenly hate it. Because nuances exist on the internet.
It doesn't when everything's okay.
Where's Louise?
I said one movie was okay.
Brand, your opinions are perfectly fine. I appreciate your enthusiasm for this film. Despite, again, my feelings about how he starts out, I do like this movie despite Danny's flaws. I was thrilled to discuss this, and I hope eventually people realize the potential for it to become a classic and it gets a proper home media release with all of the lost footage and the behind the scenes stuff, because that's one of the reasons why I still indulge in home media. That's one of the reasons why, going back to Feladay, I'm going to buy that 4K remaster, because they've got a great lineup of special features set to be on there. This, I still don't own the Blu-ray. I bought the DVD for, I think, $3 when Walmart had a $3 DVD bin back in, I want to say 2002, because I bought it around the same time I got the original English dub version of Dragon Ball, the Harmony Gold box set.
Which one did you buy
And I
first?
still need to get. I
I
still
bought
need to
it
get
at
the
the
Blu-ray
same
of.
time.
Which one did you go there for?
Both, actually.
Uh-huh.
And see, the thing is, I want to get the Blu-ray of Castle Dance because I'm sure it looked better than the VHS quality that I remember, or the DVD quality rip that I had to watch for this review.
The reviews on Blu-ray.com are saying it's a decent transfer compared to what we got with the original DVD release. And plus side, it doesn't come with that clamshell case.
Well, plus I also want to support the official release too. So
Okay, so I guess was I the only one that had a weird problem with like the last like so the whole
last music
movie
number.
well the whole movie has a subtle prejudice kind of racist like racism. And it gets weird when I notice where I'm like, man, there are no minorities. It's all white people. But then at the very end, I'm like Pudge gets the little afro where I'm like, huh.
you mean
Oh.
the Static Shock?
Yeah, but then it's his hairstyle the rest of the time, which looks like a fro. But then they go into a
Because
southern
it's
gospel.
static.
They go into a
Static.
southern gospel, and I'm like, so we don't have any black people in this, but the final scene is very black coded.
You're supposed to
It's-
see all of the animals as minorities.
Some of the music
Plus,
were
you know,
black-coded.
it being based in jazz music
Yeah.
might have
What
something
jazz,
to do with
though?
that parallel.
There was no jazz.
Do you not hear the? Oh my god!
There's jazz, and Natalie Cole being the singing voice for Sawyer is meant to even further illustrate that the animals are meant to be the minorities in this.
But I'm just saying, it's a weird thing that people are like, this is a great story about minorities, because minorities compared to animals is not a good feature.
Allegory.
Okay.
Metaphor.
As a white dude, I'm well aware that's not a good allegory.
And as a metaphor, it works.
It could have been much worse. We could have watched Song of the South.
That actually had a better plot.
Can we stop saying stuff has a better plot than the movie we just watched?
It needed to be longer.
Okay, it needed to be longer, but like 10 minutes, but still told a complete story
No,
in an
almost
hour and 14
25.
minutes.
But what would you have filled it with? Like last time, I agreed the movie needed to be longer, like fill it up, character development and whatnot. But this time, I don't actually think it needed to be longer. It's like,
Well, we needed to get to know the killers a little more.
but they were the ones with the failed dreams.
It got
Yes,
it's
Danny.
like bullet points. It jump. It moved too fast.
James
It
wants
was-
an uncut version where you get some insight into why Tilly comes off as a little flirtatious with everyone she meets, and what's the deal with the relationship between what's her
See the
name?
cat. We already know how
and
she does that.
No, that was Sawyer. Tilly's the hippo.
No.
Also, I mean, the other weird thing is, I'm curious, like, I feel like this has somewhat of a shelf life because they like, hey, let's do homages to like the 30s and 40s, which we got as millennials because it's like we grew up on reruns and older stuff, and including like I recognize more of those characters from Looney Tunes than the actual movies they are. But I can't imagine a kid nowadays watching this movie being, especially like the sequence of him, like kind of the first song, and it's all the random like characters of celebrities. I'm like, okay, I recognize them, but it's like I can imagine a lot of kids nowadays just being like, what the hell is going on?
See that
Did have a addendum to that though? Sorry, Steve.
no, it's
Is when I first watched this, like 4 years old, like I said, I could probably trace back why I wanted to watch older movies and why I like jazz music to this movie. Because a lot of stuff like, oh, Casablanca, oh, Gone with the Wind, Singing with the Rain. I wanted to see these movies when I was growing up because I saw them in this movie. I thought like, well, I wonder what the deal is with that one. I feel like I'm missing a little bit of probably context of like why this is such an important movie. So I want to go back and see all these different Hollywood movies throughout the ages.
These were thoughts you had at 4.
I was 4 years old. Yeah. It's funny. I actually have old tastes. It's kind of weird.
No, it's not
But
the
I'm
old
not a
taste.
TikTok
It's the fact that
generation.
they're like, I do believe indubitably I am missing out on some of the classic pop culture.
Well, apparently I also sound like a robot, so I don't know.
Well, Monty liked the movie. He was wagging his tail the whole time watching it last night, and I will say, Josh, you have a point, and that was one of the biggest critiques that critics had of this film back when it came out. The New York Times, Variety, Siskel and Ebert, they all made note of the fact that yes, this harkens back to older times, and how our kids, the demographic this movie is geared toward, going to understand these references. It felt like a bit of an identity crisis with regards to that. And then what we get later with the montage, where it splits between classic films like Casablanca and then moves forward into Twister, and a film that was released the year after this film, Batman and Robin.
Because
There was a reaction reason for that, and
Yeah,
it's
there
because
was.
they were gonna try and get rights to like older movies in the catalog. That they're gonna do Star Wars. They were gonna do like there was another one they're gonna do. It was gonna be Sound of Music, I think, and they couldn't get the rights to them. So like, okay, we gotta use movies that we actually have the rights to. So we gotta use like Batman, Robin, and Twister and Free Willy. So stuff in our own catalog we can use.
Now, the funny thing is, because of that sequence, Michael Jackson is still in this film because he provided music for Free Willy. Back then, and even to this day, I feel that the inclusion of that is a tribute to his previous involvement with this project. Other people have said that it's a middle finger to Michael Jackson for backing out of the project, but that's their own opinion. I still think it's a tribute, and Free Willy's another movie that I just so happen to enjoy, not as a guilty pleasure, but the first one at least isn't terrible. I like this movie overall. I'm glad this won the vote. And
I regret vote.
It's a fun follow up to Fella Day.
I regret voting for this. I helped my own demise.
Well, you're welcome, Josh. Sorry you got to watch a good movie for a change.
Well, on the one hand,
for a change. Yeah, okay.
Well, on the one hand, you've got a movie in which there's explicit cat intimacy with no love attached. And then on the other hand, you've got it, and it develops quickly, even though there are subtle hints later on. You've got a real love story that develops between Danny and Sawyer, and they do something that was considered explicit in the 30s, and they hold hands at the end. And almost kiss, but then it turns into a three-way, so that's a little different.
Another thing with comedy, I like how Sawyer has just bad luck with doors.
No. Sorry. We are not going past that. Threesome? What movie did you watch?
They wind up trying to kiss each other, but kiss LB Mammoth instead.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. That was one I'm like, we are not just brushing past that.
He went to the Wicked site to watch it.
Also, I like how this is kind of like the little subtle jags, or not subtle jags, but like the jokes they make at MGM with the woolly mammoth, where they imply that every single time they film a new movie, they got to film the woolly mammoth doing the lion roar, basically, the MGM intro.
So that was kind of weird because it's like, oh, it's a jab, but like James Earl Jones made more money off of This Is CNN than he ever did off of Star Wars.
Well, no, but I mean, like, it's a whole like parody kind of a thing.
I know,
of like
I get what you're saying, but
MGM.
I'm saying as an adult, I'm like, I want that job. Slap. Yeah, like what is that? 5 minutes worth of
But
work?
like they also say, Woolly Mammoth, like the Woolly guy says, played by John Rhys Davies, who does a brilliant job, by the way. Love that actor. But like he mentions, like, yeah, I can play the piano just fine. They just didn't want me for that. They wanted me to just be like a guy who just does like the intro all the time. Like they have talent. Like the thing is, they have talent. They're just not recognized for their talent.
How did he play the piano?
I wondered that
Pretty
in one
well.
scene too. Like,
The same way he made tea to the best of his ability.
And guess what?
I'm just saying.
The tea also is a real thing too.
I will say,
I'm just saying, like the whole point of the movie that was lost on you was like, yeah, what you would think would be the big clumsy elephant is actually very good at playing piano as a bit savant at it. So the reason why he's not given a shot is kind of unfair. There you go. Like, I don't know what else I have to explain about that.
The sense of humor to me was a little bit too goofy, on the goofy side. I think if we're talking about remakes and different movies in the past that had a remake, or we discussed a remake for, I think this one, not as a movie, but it would make a great Broadway show if they cut out the goofiness.
See, I think it works
enough for Broadway.
I think it could work as an off-Broadway show with, like, if they do, like, well, maybe don't cut the slapstick too much, but like, because that does give this movie a little bit of its charm. But I definitely do think that it could work as like its own stage musical in that sense.
Yeah, put a little bit more emphasis on the story, on the characters, build out the songs, and in my opinion, cut the goofy. The goofiness is just comes with the animation of the 90s. Like it's an animated movie from the 90s. It has to have the Looney Tunes vibe, the slapstick, the stuff that, I don't know. To me, it doesn't age well. Like there's some shows from my childhood that I watch now, and it's like, that's too much. I mean, it's fun for a kid. My kids are cracking up over some of those shows, and they have fun with that goofiness. As an adult, I'm like, that's a little bit too goofy. Like the sense of humor, like make a smarter joke, and I get it, and like and it's funnier to me. But just they're falling on their noses, and I don't know.
I don't think that's all the comedy was, though, because there's rapid fire dialogue. Like I said, I mentioned His Girl Friday earlier, where that also has rapid fire dialogue.
That one. It's just if they cut down on that goofiness, those jokes and that dialogue shines more.
Also, Torsten, I know what you mean. I agree with you, but I also feel like you're leaning way too much into the whole German stereotype, where you're like, there's too much fun, too much goofiness. Business.
And you see, goofiness to me is not fun. It like can ruin a good joke and ruin a good, smart, witty dialogue.
It's
physical comedy.
It's about
like 4-4, Love and Thunder.
Okay, look, if we're going off of that scale, this was
another movie I thought was just
Goats.
okay. Another movie I thought was just okay, but people seem to hate.
Oh, that movie was terrible. That movie.
Natalie Portman did look good in that movie.
Fantastic Four from 2015 was more terrible than Thor: Love and Thunder. There, my hot take for the day.
There you go. I agree. And it's funny that you just mentioned the musical aspect in terms of a play, because Quest for Camelot was a movie, and Warner had the intention while producing that film to turn this into an actual stage show. I honestly don't remember, because I didn't enjoy that movie, if that actually came to be, but I think this would have been a fun children-themed stage show more so than Quest for Camelot.
I think it did get a stage, but like, yeah, they put a lot of their eggs into Quest for Camelot, which was a terrible choice.
I mean, there's so many other animated movies that turned into a musical. I'm just looking at the shows that are on Broadway right now: The Lion King,
and the stage show was one that turned to a Broadway.
Aladdin.
Musical. Yes,
we have even Back to the Future. Okay,
so we got. I mean, look, we got Alien.
Spider-Man Turned Off to Dark, I think, was also another one.
Because the problem is
Michael Jackson. There's an MJ musical. Anyways,
because the problem is too, if one thing's success, that's the other problem with just a lot of business, where it's like if one thing does it well, they don't like to analyze like, well, why did this do well? It's like we all need to copy it, and sometimes it's like the worst lesson. Like we all need to do a musical.
But maybe it's a good. So again, I think we are over an hour into the discussion. We can bring on the comparison at this point. I love Sing. Sing is one of the best movies that were released in the years in the 2010s. Moana and Sing stand out. Both released, I believe, in 2016 as the best movies of that year period. Not only animated; those are great movies. I love watching Sing. I've probably watched it 20 times. My kids love it. I love the story. The songs have power. I did not know Scarlett Johansson can sing like she does. It has not as many original songs, so there's a lot of cover songs in there, but it does have two. I think only one is credited as original song, but I don't think Scarlett Johansson Set It All Free was released in any other way outside of that movie. So I credit that song to the movie Sing. Such a powerful movie, such powerful songs. And again, watching Cats Don't Dance now makes me realize how much that movie took from it. Not only the musical aspect, but down to, I mean, animals representing people, or like the flooding the theater or the scene, even down to details that weren't actually needed to tell a story like that. Even the details were I don't know, copied, or I mean, there's too much coincidence for it not to be related.
Similarities with the animals too.
Yeah, similarities there. But what that movie does better is puts a better focus and a higher focus on different characters, gives them a song, a dedicated solo song that makes them grow their character arc, or lets the viewer dive deeper into each character, let's educate or tells them more of a story with regards to each character, where they come from, where they're going, gives that growth. Where in Cats Don't Dance, I feel that the musical shows, except for one or two exceptions, were more like just the performance based, but not to actually have a character shine or tell a background character's backstory.
I think one of the
what songs would those be? So I could think of like a few.
I think one of the benefits of Sing is the fact that Illumination at this point, I think that was released officially around Christmas in 2016. It wasn't just the budget, because a large portion of that budget, holy crap, went toward marketing, because there were toys, there was cross promotion all over the place for that film. But releasing Faith, which was an Ariana Grande song produced by Stevie Wonder, by the way, before the premiere of the film, brought people out, because Ariana Grande's been a big deal for a long time, and having her produce an original song for an animated feature from the same studio that, for better or for worse, created those damn Minions. That was
because of Cats Don't Dance, we got the Minions.
Because of Cats Don't Dance, we got Sing, which I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure that crossed the $500 million mark by the time.
$634 million box office, based on a budget of 75. So you're only a bit more than doubling Cats Don't Dance 20 years later. So counted for inflation, it's basically the same budget of those two movies.
How well was Sing?
108 minutes.
So as long
as I could watch Cats Don't Dance the entire way through. All I need to do to watch Sing is just watch the trailer, and I got the whole gist of the movie.
No, but you don't.
there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of depth at first glance with Sing. It's not even about the music. It's more about the inner turmoil that the characters are dealing with. Cats Don't Dance, I enjoy it, but a lot of it is very simplistic conflict, because it's a kid movie. Pixar kind of started the whole, let's dive deeper. Maybe Buzz Lightyear is suicidal, or Bo Peep has a drug problem. Nothing that severe, obviously, I'm exaggerating, but they dealt with actual sociological mental health issues, and Sing took it a step further with discussing why these mental health issues come into play. I can't name the characters, so I apologize, Torsen, but the porcupines dealing with the Scarlett Johansson's character, she's dealing with the fact that she feels subverted and put under a basket in her own relationship and has to come out of that shadow. The gorilla, Taron Egerton's character, who's absolutely stellar, and that man has a powerful singing voice. He's having to decide what he wants his path to be and where his legacy lies, not the legacy his father wants for him. It's much deeper than Cats Don't Dance, and that just lends further relevance to what you said, that Cats Don't Dance had to stumble and walk. So movies like Sing 2 decades later could sprint, because this SOB of a movie, Sing, sprinted at the box office and made buku bucks the same year that Moana came out. And prior to that, another anthropomorphic animal film, one of my favorite Disney movies, Zootopia, came out and made big bank too.
Yeah, what you
I'm just saying,
mentioned, like,
Castlevania should
Sing,
get more credit.
Oh, it
Yeah.
should.
credit for being an inspiration to so much other things.
Just credit for
standing
just,
by itself.
yeah, I think Castle Dance was its own unique message. It wasn't trying to do like its own turmoil about like psychological issues or about like the themes that Sing does. It was just trying to tell, like I said, like a love letter to Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood, as well as also just be like a really fun musical, while also being an allegory to like what we talked about before.
So once upon a time in Hollywood, Cats Don't Dance.
And Josh completely just tap dances all over my point and not listens, but okay.
Tap dance, nice use.
But yes, Steve, I didn't want to interrupt you there because, yeah, you absolutely 1,000% agree with everything you said. And it's not only those characters, basically every single character in Sing has that very unique and character arc, character growth, and relationship that is explored. Like, again, the porcupine Ash in a toxic relationship she needs to break out of. Johnny, the gorilla, has that father complex. He wants to prove himself to his father, and while needing to stand on his own feet while his father isn't around. And you have every other Rosita, the big, like, having to deal with motherhood and kind of like postpartum depression there, like deep topics being addressed for a kids movie.
It's pretty dark for a kids movie. It's too Torsen.
And obviously you get the fun elements there too with what's the male's pig name, Gunther, the German pig counterpart, where you think in any other movie you might hit on her, but then he doesn't, because it's just a platonic relationship on stage. Like there's it's so deep with regards to character development and analyzing or recognizing, not even analyzing, recognizing different relationships, positive and negative. And then that amplified by the music when Ash comes out and sings Set It All Free, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. Like, that is an emotional song in that moment with that build-up. So is Hallelujah when I forgot her name too, the elephant. She comes out and based on her spiritual upbringing, shines, also being very shy, and then comes out and shines. Mina, voiced by Tori Kelly, has stage fright and then shines in the end. So again, Sing is one of the best animated movies ever made, in my opinion.
And
the irony that Sing has taken over the conversation from Cats Don't Dance.
Not an
Not lost on me.
It just proves
made it better.
The point even further, though, Brand, that Cats Don't Dance is a spiritual predecessor to Sing.
You brought this up. You started this analogy.
As we said,
Technically, Torsen did.
I have it in my notes too. Like, so this, when I watched the movie, like half an hour into the movie or less than half an hour into Cats Don't Dance, I was like, oh, well, now I see where Sing comes from.
The only thing missing, and again, I think this relates to the fact that there is an identity crisis within Cats Don't Dance, because it is a film made for kids, but there's so many references that adults would only get. The kids could care less about. I didn't really care about the romance between Sawyer and Danny, but it's there. It subtly develops and then moves forward because, not the kink shame, they're holding hands by the end of that movie and they almost kiss. That's pretty explicit for a 30s.
Here's my thing about my little pushback a little bit about, like, yes, this movie is made for kids and some jokes are just they're not going to get. Here's my thing. We also watched Batman animated series, which also had darker elements, was made for kids, and we were just fine with that.
Yeah.
And we understood it perfectly
understand.
fine, even at a younger age.
I think
I don't think kids are as dumb as we think they are.
I think it's more so the references. I understood, but I grew up with a maternal grandmother who loved the Thin Man, who showed me the classic Universal monsters films from the 30s because they were basically child appropriate, even though a lot of kids these days would probably poo their pants seeing a movie in black and white like that. They can sit through Terrifier, but probably not The Mummy without having trauma develop. If they were to remake Cats Don't Dance, say in 2015, and with a studio that actually believed in it by doing proper marketing, I think it would have been successful. Heck, when it was released originally, if they had marketed this film, I think kids of all ages and I think adults would have come out to see this movie. I don't have the charts in front of me. I can't tell you what it opened to numbers wise at the box office in terms of ranking. I can't tell you how many weeks it was in theaters, but considering its minimal box office, it probably wasn't very long. And it stands as one of those films, kind of like a couple of the other animated features back then that made up for it by gathering a small following through the eventual home media release. Whereas with Sing, obviously thanks in no small part to their reputation, Illumination's reputation, and the marketing, it was going to be a success no matter what. I mean, you look at, no offense if you like them, anyone, the last two Despicable Me movies and both Minion movies, the plot is much more thin than Cats Don't Dance, but because of the marketing, because of the fan following, they're more successful than they would have been had they released around the same time as Cats.
Wow.
Don't Dance.
Wait a minute. A man who's dealt with trauma between how his mother was raised and realizes that his career is going nowhere, tries to something different, and helps three young women keep their family together is not a deep story.
I said the last two Despicable Me movies. I like the first one a heck of a lot. I
haven't seen the other two.
One's a lot of fun. 3 and 4 are not my forte.
It falls off pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, on my bingo card for 2024, Steven I could see, but Torsten and Steven loving Sing was not on there. So here we are.
Have you watched it? And it's
I don't know what Lali's opinion was on Sing. Lali, what was your opinion on Sing? She said and she said she didn't love it.
Josh, have you watched Sing in its entirety?
No, I'm an adult.
Damn, it's a movie with a lot of adults.
Sleeping Beauty. I'm sorry.
Sleeping Beauty.
I can't see the resemblance between Princeton and Great House at all. Can't see it. Not the hat or anything, or the grumpy demeanor.
I'm sorry, I did not watch. What was the name of that stupid show that had all the singing? Glee, the movie.
I didn't watch it
the
either.
movie. I watched it at the theater and I regretted it because I expected a movie, not a documentary. But you mentioned bingo card, and that brought me to like why this is probably more of an analogy than actually the animal rights movie or like animals don't make it in show business, because I was like, well, is it actually that bad that animals don't get cast for major roles? And like, no, this came out just just 5 years after Bingo, the movie, and Beethoven, who had also various sequels.
What movie?
Bingo?
No,
And
Bingo?
Bingo is
I don't know that
a
one
movie.
either.
You don't know Bingo?
No.
I don't know. Might have been just a thing. In 1991, kids
That's a live
comedy.
action movie.
That's a live action movie with a dog in the main role. So it's Beethoven.
I know Beethoven. I enjoyed that movie.
Wait,
there are a lot of animal-led movies in the 90s.
That's what I was going to say. Homeward Bound.
That's not the point of the movie, though.
It's exactly the point of the movie. Like
no, because like
all the roles
in universe of where Castle takes place in the 1930s, animals and proxy minorities do not get starring roles in movies.
Because cats don't dance in the fake universe, and because of Danny the cat, we got Bingo and Beethoven in the real world.
Well, apparently we also got Twister, and we also got Batman and Robin, and apparently that's like the fourth one. So apparently there's like 3 Batman movies before that.
In the 30s.
What's kind of funny is that Gene Kelly, for the longest time, even after his initial retirement, was still big in Hollywood, and this was his last major project that was officially released. And a lot of people to this day see him as an innovator in the industry. And then I think nearly 25 years later, someone who is just as influential in the music industry, because it wasn't just film that Gene Kelly was influential in, it was choreography and music as well. That man was flawed but talented. In Sing 2, they have Bono, who is controversial as he is. You have to say he's an icon and an innovator in the industry as well. So you've got that
and
parallel as well.
To bring it back to Gene Kelly, they do reference Singing in the Rain, which is one of his most famous movies in Castle Dance. So,
and he died before the movie was released, right?
Unfortunately, yes, he did die before the movie was released. I don't know if he got to see a screening. I believe it was still in final stages of post-production. He died in 96. The film was released in 96.
And looking at everyone that was involved in this project, the only names I really recognized from the get-go were Randy Newman and Gene Kelly.
Randy Newman was brought on as a replacement musical influence, and then score master for this movie, thanks in no small part to not only his career, but Toy Story.
Yeah.
So I can officially say Taxi Driver was worse than Small Soldiers for Josh.
We're doing rankings now.
Oh, yeah.
This is Christmas time, so this is officially the Christmas movie club.
Well, this is a 2024 This is a 2024 wrap-up. I'm sorry. You like First Love more, too, than like everything else we watched this year, too?
No, First Love takes bottom place.
Sorry, Sam.
Taxi Driver is still worse than First Love for me.
No. Let me see. What do we actually do?
Yeah, you'll take the generic True Romance knockoff than you will this.
Oh, my goodness, Josh. I wasn't part of that, but I watched the replay of Taxi Driver. You gored that movie.
I said my piece. And look, y'all might roast me for Cats Don't Dance. I could tell the budget didn't go towards animation at times. They were off model, especially when I said there's a clip show. A movie like an animated movie like this should not have this. This was closer to, I would say this was closer to a low OVA.
It didn't have a clip show. 10 seconds of him reminiscing in the rain is not a clip show.
240 frames.
You do not know what a clip show is.
240 frames.
This is more of a clip show, us talking about 2024 movies we watched than what happened in Cast Don't Dance.
A clip
It's-
show.
Remember the time back when we watched Die Hard last year? Cuts back to Die Hard review.
Also, here's the thing. Why does my opinion matter?
Because we love you.
Because we're having a discussion about movies.
It's not like I'm going to come to your house and break the disc and be like, haha, no dance, don't dance for you.
And I didn't say you were, but like you can't also get mad because I'm defending my stance of the movie that you don't like. Sorry.
I'd just buy him the Blu-ray so he has an upgrade anyway.
I'd buy it twice. It's supporting the movie anyways.
Don't buy him Feliday. It'll go straight to the trash.
You can send it to me. We've done, excluding the Oscars, that's another 10 movies on top of that. 9 movies
Four
this year.
things.
Yeah.
A third of them been animated though.
I like 14, so
19, that'd be crazy. 9 movies this year. So ranking them, in my opinion, first Millennium Actress. Then I would probably put From Dusk Till Dawn, Taxi Driver. The Mummy and Feliday are close. I don't know. Let's put The Mummy and then Feliday. Small Soldiers, The Crow,
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Cats Don't Dance, and then First Love.
Joke's on you. I'm not going to fall into this trap and have Josh yell at me. I'll just say I had a great 2024 being on the show. I got to be on this more than I was expected to get to talk about either obscure classics or stuff that is well known and stands the test of time, like Taxi Driver does, or stuff that has had their anniversary, like The Mummy or Feliday or The Crow. I got to talk about a wide range of topics and stuff this year, so I'm very happy about that, regardless of all the stuff we watched.
I was just about to say, like when I did the ranking, I was like, but I liked all of those movies,
Wait.
and we're going further down the line, which
What-
means
where did you
no,
place
by no
mine?
means.
where do you place Millennium Actress?
Ooh,
He wants to know where you ranked Millennium Actress. I think you ranked
was number one.
Number one.
So if we were incorporating the Oscar films,
Can't even
would
remember.
would what we ranked the lowest in that category still be? Would that be bottom of the barrel for you? I think my
Yes,
stuff
yes.
is what we ranked lowest.
Yeah.
for that.
What was
Ma-
it? Anatomy of a Fall. I think was by far the worst movie I've seen all year.
No, Maestro. Is it Maestro or
Maestro.
Mephisto?
That's true.
Yeah, that one was. It was horrible.
All I
Well,
know
none of
is
them were
I-
Godzilla -1, so I wasn't there for that one.
Didn't
without
review
Cats
it.
Don't Dance, we would not have Black Sad.
That could be true.
Oh God, Steven, don't make me hit you.
Imagine Cats Don't Dance 2 and it has a noir twist.
Also, earlier when Torsten kept saying Noah's Ark, I know he was saying Noah, but with the accent, it sounded like Noir Arc, and I'm like, I want that movie.
Oh no, we just hit the noir arc of the movie club.
I think the movie
We're
was
gonna show up in
Little
black and
Ark
white.
Orphan or something like
Smoke in the
that.
backgrounds.
Yeah,
I'll
because
put that somewhere.
the other thing, before we end Cats No Dance, it's weird because I thought of Baby from Batman the Animated Series, but also she reminded me of like the weird cousin from Elmira and Max
Yes.
from Tiny Toons.
Yeah. Adult definitely played more sinister than that. So you
I'm,
could say probably a lot more sinister because Elmira killed that show.
I'm
I
curious.
think Baby Doll is a better person than Darla Dimple, though, because at least she can justify her actions through significant abuse and trauma and probably some form of severe mental degradation from her medical condition as well.
Now here's the real
Darla's
question
just
though.
evil.
Who was Max supposed to be based off of?
See, me, in my head canon, I based Max off with Joe Fixit. Like if Joe Fixit got crossed with Frankenstein or
I
Alfred.
honestly thought, because I'm like, oh, he's going to say, go. I can't think of his name. The butler from Adam's Family, Lurch.
Lurch.
Yeah, but I'm like, especially because like he's got a little bit of a scar right here. I don't know.
I just love how they don't explain where he comes from. Like it's a complete mystery.
And the fact that you see a gorilla, you see Kong, and then Max, he's supposedly a gorilla as well.
No, he's human.
You think he's just supposed to be a human? Just a very, very
I've always
bulky.
equated him to a
human.
gorilla.
The problem is he's human, but his face and ears are scrunched up, and he's got like a bigger mouth, which is akin to like a gorilla. But he is human.
Because of the race aspect of it, I equated it to he's an indentured servant.
I see, like I said, because it almost. I kind of hate when you do this with movies because it's like I can insert a cooler idea of what Max is than what they actually gave me. Because truthfully, it's like, because here's the other thing with Darla Dimple, Army's like Mammoth could have been her uncle or dad.
Well, I think the implication she's like, or like Max is like her guardian because we don't see her parents, and for all we know, she probably fired them too.
It's what makes her untouchable. Like to have her career status personified in her physical, like protected status. Well, like you can't touch her with regards to her movie career, and you can't touch her physically because, like, it's clear at every point that Max is protecting her.
And here's the thing, though, too. Y'all missed that moment. The reason she failed is because Max wasn't around. Like the fact that Pudge, like with the whole bow tie, is what clued off Max.
Well, that's also the thing too. Max also went off on his own free will when normally he gets ordered around by Darla, and that ended up actually costing him because I imagine if Max was there with Darla trying to mess up the whole sabotage in the stage plan, I imagine it would have gone a lot differently. But Max also had to go off on his own and make his own decision and basically almost try and kill like Danny before the show even got started.
Which he should have.
Danny's some further dark connotations there. I'm
getting the sense that Josh doesn't like optimistic characters.
Danny is a sociopathic character who used the people around him and called them friends for his own ends. He does not care about other people, and he only seems like the hero because it's a bright, happy movie.
Are you saying that because you're projecting, or are you just saying that because you don't actually want to see facts?
Release the Great House cut of Cats Don't Dance.
It would just be the end credits because that's all he actually watched.
Yeah, clearly. Before we end, I'm looking... If anyone's watching this, I hope you realize this group voted against Empire Records to watch.
And I hope you, the people at home watching, realize Josh won Empire Records, and that's why he's salty this entire time. He had to watch a better movie.
I'm salty because, man, that movie was terrible.
Also, he wanted Rex Manning Day to be celebrated in December. That's in April, so he's already wrong.
It'll be interesting to edit this one, but I want to say... Thank you to
all of
you.
Leave it wrong.
The last one was 2.5 hours long, and that didn't have any edits, and it also got some views. So,
Carson, you're gonna have to put timestamps like Omar does with his spoiler stamps. This is where Brand and Josh fight. This is where they done.
20 minutes.
We already did that for like 2 hours now.
Whose birthday is in January, February, March, April, May?
Well, no, this is what you do. Movie, then like at the very end, just be like BS, random talk, miscellaneous.
Final thoughts, by the way. I don't know if it's too obvious. I might have been too subtle about it, but I love this movie.
Gasp.
I'm a fan.
Josh hates everything.
8 out of 10, despite Danny's flaws. 8 out of 10.
I like how Josh hates everything. Then literally, I love the last movie that you hated.
Well, hold on. I actually didn't know what I last said. I love this movie now more than I did when I first watched it. So I'm more than happy I watched it for this.
So I always rate any movie based on what its intent is. So this clearly is a kid's movie. If this was just me rating a movie that would have a probably worse rating. Me knowing what the intention of this movie is, it gets away probably better than otherwise. So I would still give this a 7.5 out of 10. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. I liked it. It was good. I don't think it needed to be longer, and I liked the idea that it was provided the inspiration for other things that we discussed. James.
Probably a 6 out of 10.
That's fine.
Awesome. And with that, I want to say thank you to all of you. I hope you have a great Christmas.
I didn't rate it.
We already
Give
know.
us your rating. Give us your rating.
Watch an hour of Looney Tunes, you'll be happier.
There you go.
Out of
Thank
10.
you for joining Torson's wonderful December 2024, aka the
It was very festive,
Movie Club.
very, very harmonic. There weren't any fights between family members, and therefore, I hope you all get well into the new year. Don't blow your fingers off using illegal fireworks. With
Don't shoot
that, I'll
Ryan.
see you all in January.
This is America. You blow those fingers off.
Merry Christmas
Happy
and a Happy New
holidays.
Year.